let's get into the conference and
Sure.
the big three: Stalin, Churchill, Roosevelt. It takes place in Yalta, which is on the north coast of the Black Sea, famously a summer vacation spot of the Tsars, way back in the day. And you paint the picture so well of this war-ravaged area as the setting for the whole book.
Yes, and there's this apocryphal quip about of Winston Churchill saying if we'd spent 10 years, we couldn't have found a worse place to have this conference than Yalta. But hard to imagine now. But it really was the best of bad alternatives available. Stalin,
especially since Stalin wouldn't go anywhere else. Basically,
he refuses to leave the Soviet Union. He says that his doctors advise him that it's bad for his health to fly. Really, he's afraid of both flying and leaving his security apparatus in the Soviet Union. And he also recognizes at this point in the war, he holds more cards than do his allied partners. So if they want to meet in person, they're going to have to come to him. Mm-hmm. But this area is just absolutely not any place that a principal would be allowed to travel today for one of these, essential summits to the future of global peace. You have bed bugs that have infested these palaces. Yes, they were once imperial palaces. Another one of them, the one that Stalin chooses to stay in, was the home of the man who was the mastermind behind the murder of Rasputin. Some atmospherics going on,
Yusupov,
I think very deliberate on Stalin's part. And literally, the palaces have been stripped by the Nazis down to the doorknobs, which the Nazis stripped out to use as scrap metal.
Yeah.
It's not a pleasant place to be. There are a lack of bathrooms. There are latrines constructed in the garden.
I loved some of that. There were some very funny stories. So before we get into some of the broader themes, just some really fun little treasures you have in the book that are so fun to read about. So the water, the sort of running tap water, was really risky to drink. You could get some sort of bacteria from that. But the mineral water was also a so you could drink mineral water from a bottle, but that was a laxative, and there were no toilets. So it was like, pick your poison. You're going to get diarrhea either way.
Exactly.
And there's nowhere to go.
No.
And there's a very funny scene in there where Stalin, comes running out of a big meeting, and he's got to pee so badly. He outruns his security detail and, sort of dashes into the nearest bathroom, but a security detail can't find him. So the whole place goes bananas trying to find Stalin, who's off, like, peeing in some little bathroom.
Yes, and they think the Americans have launched some sort of kidnapping stunt. They can't find Stalin. There's the whole nefarious plots going on. But really, he just had to use the restroom, which does become a theme throughout the conference, where you have kind of some lower-level diplomacy being conducted as these generals and admirals are queuing up for their turn in the bath in the morning. They'll send their aides to wait for them. You had the head of the RAF jumping up and down to see above the transom to see who's in there taking too long. So certainly the great equalizer in Maslow's hierarchy of needs.